From Bengal, Behula and Lakhinder enter the iron chamber. They look at each other. In the Bengali tradition, there is a goddess named Mansa. She is the goddess of snakes. She is, in the local stories, the daughter of Lord Shiva himself. But she has a problem. In the medieval Bengali villages around the Padma River, the merchants and the landowners do not want to worship her. They worship the great gods, Shiva, Krishna, Durga. They consider Mansa a lesser deity, suitable only for the poor and the rural. Mansa is angry about this. She wants the merchants and the landowners to worship her too. She is determined to make them do so. The richest merchant of the Bengal region, in that age, is a man named Chand Sadagar. He owns trading ships. He travels to Burma. He wears silk. He worships only Shiva. Mansa decides that if she can make Chand Sadagar worship her, every other merchant in Bengal will follow. Chand Sadagar has a wife. They have 6 sons. The sons grow into young men, all healthy, all handsome, all the pride of their father's house. Mansa, deciding that polite requests have failed, sends snakes into the household. The first son is bitten while drinking water in the night. He dies. The second son is bitten while sleeping on the veranda. He dies. The third son is bitten while crossing a bridge. He dies. One by one, over a series of years, all 6 sons of Chand Sadagar die from snake bites. The merchant's wife is shattered. The merchant himself becomes grim and silent. He does not curse Mansa. He does not, even now, agree to worship her. He still worships only Shiva. The goddess is more enriched than ever. She decides that she will not stop. She will continue until she breaks him. Chand's wife, in her grief, has a 7th son. He is named Lakhinder. He is more precious than the 6 who were lost. He is raised in unusual luxury and protection. The household keeps watch over him day and night. The merchant himself, against his wife's protests, refuses any longer to acknowledge the snake goddess. When Lakhinder is grown, the family arranges his marriage to a beautiful young woman named Behula. Behula is the daughter of a noble Bengali household downriver. She has been raised on stories of love and devotion. She accepts the marriage. She is told that the household carries a curse but that the curse can be defeated. She agrees to marry Lakhinder anyway. The wedding is held. Chand Sadagar, in a desperate attempt to outsmart the goddess, has built for the newlyweds an iron chamber, a wedding night room with walls of solid iron, with no window, with a sealed iron door, designed so that no snake can possibly enter. The bridal couple is locked inside for their wedding night. Behula and Lakhinder enter the iron chamber. They look at each other. They are very young, only 16 or 17. Lakhinder is exhausted from the ceremonies. He falls asleep with his head on Behula's lap. Behula sits, vigilant, watching for any creeping shadow. The chamber is, in fact, completely sealed. There is no opening. There is no crack. There is no way in. Mansa, however, is a goddess. She is not bound by iron chambers. She inspects the chamber, in her divine form, from the outside. She finds, somewhere near the floor, a tiny gap left by a careless smith. The gap is small enough that a needle would barely pass through it. She sends a small snake through the gap. The snake winds across the floor of the chamber in the moonlight. It reaches Lakhinder. It bites him on the forehead. Behula sees it happen. She tries to scream. Lakhinder dies in her lap, almost instantly. Behula does not weep. She does not scream. She holds her dead husband's body. She thinks. She comes to a decision. There is a Bengali custom in those years. When a person dies of snakebite, they are not cremated like other dead. Their bodies are placed on a small banana stem raft and floated down the river. The belief is that, since the snake is the messenger of the goddess, the snake killed are not truly dead, they are, in some sense, taken alive by the goddess, and the river might one day return them. Behula, with iron determination, places her husband's body on a banana raft. She tells her in-laws that she will not let his body be lost. She steps onto the raft beside him. She pushes off into the current of the Padma River. She means to sail with him, all the way down the river, all the way to the sea, all the way to wherever the gods live, and to ask the gods directly to return her husband. The villagers think she is mad. The river takes her. She floats for many days. She floats past town after town. The body of her husband begins to decay. She does not look away. She holds his head on her lap. She bathes him daily. She talks to him at night. She continues. She refuses, at any point, to give up. Eventually the raft reaches the place where the river meets the sea. There, the river goddess Bhagwati, who has been watching this strange floating raft for some weeks, takes pity on Behula and lifts the raft, and the woman, and the body, all the way up to the celestial city of the gods. Behula is brought before the council of gods themselves, Shiva, Brahma, Vishnu, Indra. She presents her case. She tells them she wants her husband back. The gods look at her with curiosity. They are amused by her audacity. They agree, however, to consider her case, but only if she will first dance for them. The gods of the celestial court demand to see a performance. Behula, who has never had any dance training, who is exhausted from weeks on a raft with a decaying corpse, who has not eaten properly in weeks, who is 16 years old, who has lost everything, Behula stands up in the celestial court. She begins to dance. She dances for hours. She dances every emotion of her short life. She dances her wedding day. She dances the locked iron chamber. She dances her husband's death. She dances the river. The gods, watching, are silent. When Behula finishes her dance, the gods agree to grant her one wish. Behula, very calmly, does not just ask for her husband back. She asks for more. She asks for all 7 sons of Chand Sadagar to be returned alive to their mother. The gods agree. But Mansa, who is in the celestial court watching, demands her price. She says, I will give you back all 7, on one condition. Chand Sadagar, the great merchant, must promise to worship me. He must, with his own hands, offer me flowers. Even if it is only with his left hand. Even if he does not look at me while he does it. Even if it is the smallest possible offering. He must do it. Behula agrees. She returns to her mother-in-law's house carrying all 7 sons alive. She carries with her, in her hand, a single flower for Chand to offer to Mansa. Chand Sadagar, who has lost everything, who has nothing left to defend, who sees his 7 sons standing before him alive after years of grief, accepts the bargain. He turns his face away. He stretches out his left hand. He drops the flower at Mansa's feet. The goddess accepts the offering. From that day, the Bengali merchant community begins to worship Mansa. Mansa Puja, in eastern Bengal and West Bengal, becomes one of the most popular festivals of the rainy season. It still is. The story of Behula and Lakhinder is sung in the medieval Bengali poem cycle called the Mansa Mangal, over many thousands of verses. It has been retold by every major Bengali poet of the medieval period, Vipradas Pipilai in the late 15th century, Bijoy Gupta in the 16th, Ketkadas Kshemananda in the 17th. It is performed, even today, as a folk theatre during Mansa Puja in eastern India and Bangladesh. The performances last all night. The audience sits on the ground and watches a young actress dance her way through Behula's grief, year after year. The Bengali people remember Behula not as a victim. They remember her as the woman who refused to accept that her husband was dead, who sat on a raft with a corpse for weeks because she would not let go, who walked into the court of the gods, who danced, who got what she wanted, every single thing she had come for. A young Bengali woman, in the medieval villages, was taught the story not to make her afraid of snakes. She was taught the story to be told what she was capable of. Tomorrow's story comes from another corner of India. Subscribe to walk with us through the folklore of every region, in your language.